Hi, this is Craig Lane with Video Blog, week 21, talking about digestive energy and how we need to expend energy to digest food in order to get energy for us in the form of stored energy. Just like if we're going to demolish a house, we're going to require workers to break down the house. My name is Craig Lane. I'm the founder of Health Alchemy, HealthAlchemy. And one of the things that I look at in my practices in alchemy is the study of how things are transformed, the study of how different elements or foods or herbs or different self-care like yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong, how it affects us and how it changes us, or how when we ferment things, what happens, and we do something on the full moon versus the new moon. So one of the curiosities of my life has been to be a good observer and sort of a good scientist in the background, albeit there are certain things that science cannot explain, nor can the rational mind explain, and certain things that must be experienced from the inside out, such as when one sits in meditation, there are some undeniable things that begin to happen by sitting in silence, sitting with oneself, observation of things that happen, observation of subtleties that we may miss by being out there observing the gross elements of the world. So one of these is my observation of, some people, how you eat, and we might eat and feel fatigued after a meal, and we might feel fatigued for hours afterwards. We might have, like when we eat sugar or refined sugar, we may have a rush of energy and then feel kind of dull for a while. And there are analogies for this, but I'm going to start off with explaining a simple analogy about digestion. So in the financial markets, there's a nice analogy to understand this. One cannot even get into, say, the stock market unless one has money, right? You might have $2 and that's good enough, or you might have $10 million. But if you have $10 million, the payoff, a 10% interest return on $10 million is $1 million. A 10% payoff on $2 is 20 cents. So if one sort of has energy, one can receive more energy back. And if one puts food in the body that has a strong life force, i.e. high nutrient value, and remember, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the way I teach health, is that nutrients aren't chemicals, vitamins aren't chemicals, minerals aren't isolated by themselves, nor should they be given in the form of ground up rocks, which is what most supplements give you. So nutrients are living processes. They are not chemicals. And this is one of the great mistakes that many of people in health and chemists and scientists believe. And that's a whole other conversation. So as my spiritual teacher and some of my good health teachers reminded me, don't take my word for anything. Go out there and see for yourself. So each of us is a sort of an exploration too. And what I mean by that is, so we'll take it back to concrete examples now. If I need to expend, say, 10 units of energy for my food, and the food has at its greatest capacity to give me back, say, 8 units of energy, then even if I have optimal digestion, because I'm only going to get back 8 units, you're giving out 10. So I'm at a net deficit. So it's like if you put $10 in your checking account and only 8's available, but you want to spend 10, then you got to draw 2 out of your savings account. And we all have a sort of savings account, which is why some of us potentially live longer, despite the fact that eat crappy, don't take care of themselves, and they still live to be 100. And that's where various of the traditional health models are able to look at someone and say, oh, he's got a strong constitution. I have the analogy of we're sort of born with a poker hand. Some of us are born with a really strong hand, and that's why those can get away with certain things, and others that are born with a pair of threes cannot. One is born with a larger savings account, the other one's born with less. So in digestion, some people can just get away with certain things while others cannot. And that's how I explain to people why is it that my grandfather could just do da 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 and he still lived a long and happy life. And ultimately, that grandfather who did those things may have actually passed on less to the next generation. Debatable, but why did the Native Americans look out 7 generations for all their decisions? And that's one possible argument, but you could make arguments either way, I'm sure. So we need to expend energy to get energy back. And say, then another thing to consider in digestion or digestive energy that's fueling our cells to give us energy is that some people need more carbohydrate than others. Some people need to eat more protein than others. Some people need to separate starch and protein at meals just to be able to extract the energy out of the food without producing a lot of waste in the process. Just like when your car burns fuel, all fuel produces a certain amount of residue. And one of the things I like to do in my practice is be able to help people see that, me personally, in my world, I produce a lot of waste when I digest, and it appears in the form of fire, which is why I'm not overweight, nor do I have an easy time gaining weight. Then there are others that when they digest more cleanly, especially if they put good solid food that their body can actually burn cleanly, while others who produce digestive waste, if you will, that waste sticks in the form of residue and they gain weight. And that's what they would call, a fast versus a slow oxidizer, perhaps. In Ayurveda, they would call that person kapha. And in Ayurveda, that person tends to build a lot of substance, versus the person who is a fire type or a pitta type in Ayurveda. They might burn up all that excessive waste, but it still leaves a residue, and that residue must be dealt with by various parts of our body and by microbes and by the filtering organs and so on and so forth. So one of the things to keep in mind is just that simple insight that there's so many things we can explore in how we eat, like the order of foods, what we would eat early in the day versus late in the day, what we would eat, what type of foods we would eat early in the day versus late in the day, what foods is our system intolerant to, what foods in what combinations work. And so there's a lot of little things that we can sort of explore in not only what we eat, but how we eat it. And in what combinations do things work best for us. And the litmus test here is, how do we feel after we eat? How well do we sleep? How well do our bowels move? How's our skin look? And in the long run, there are certain things that we cannot determine right away. But there are certain self-care markers that we can keep track on a day-to-day. Like, I look at my tongue every morning. It gives me information. I look at the whites of my eyes. That gives me a certain bit of information. Look at my skin quality. Look at how my bowels move. Look at my energy levels and my moods, and how my thinking changes based on what I eat. These are all markers of things that I teach and will be teaching more on the mainstream, presenting things that on a day-to-day basis there are ways we can sort of monitor and get early warning, so that if we're on the way to osteoporosis, we have ways to monitor this. Because if we're seeing high levels of inflammation appearing chronically, then typically that's too much acidity, and then our body draws alkaline minerals out of the bone to keep the blood from getting too acidic, because the blood's the sacred vessel in the body. So that's my point here, is that we need to take it back to digestive energy is expended to get energy back. So we give energy to get energy back. that's the simple takeaway for today's video blog. We expend energy to get energy back. So consider that. And the long ramble is just food for thought for those who wish to see the details in what I'm saying. But keep things simple in your life, and that's the simple takeaway from today's video blog. We expend energy, get energy back, and then just trying out different combinations as I have over the last 20 years. I got myself down to a diet that works really well for me. And sometimes there are times where I just say, screw it. I'm just going to have some wheat sourdough bread and chocolate dessert with refined sugar. And I have experimented there, but my body's at the point where it just simply does not value those things, nor does my being value them as much as just being in a high uplifted state with high energy and enthusiasm. So this is Craig Lane with Health Alchemy, Heal, Thalkemy, healthalchemy.com, and I can be reached via my website. And always love feedback about how these go. And signing off, week 21, digestive energy spent to get energy back into the body.